This is a first impression video of the Canon C50. I just got this camera around 3 weeks ago now, at the beginning of December, and it has been absolutely a blast to shoot with. This is my first cinema camera from Canon, and this is obviously on the lower end when you compare it to something like the C80 or the C400, but the C50 is a very capable camera. And I wanted to share a little bit of my experience with it over the last few weeks and to talk about some of the things I like and don't like about this camera so far. If you're new here, my name is Bruno Pozo. I'm a commercial filmmaker here in Central Oregon, and I make weekly videos on filmmaking technique, gear reviews, and how to make money with your camera. If any of that interests you, hit that like and subscribe. Now, on to the impressions. The first thing that I was really excited about with this camera is its design. It has a very compact cinema design that is kind of clearly inspired by Sony's FX2, FX3, and FX30. And so it is a very small camera, but very powerful. There are a bunch of buttons all over the camera that you can customize to do whatever you want. So operating this camera is a lot of fun and very easy, especially if you're a solo operator like myself. I have personally found the ergonomics of this camera to be really comfortable and convenient for shooting. Like the Canon R5 Mark II, you also get a full-size HDMI port, which I'm so glad that they're getting rid of their old micro HDMI ports, and now it seems to become standard for these full-size ones. And as you can see, this camera is a little bit thicker, and that's because it does come with an internal fan. And the internal fan is one of the reasons I went with this camera over something like the Canon R6 Mark III, even though both of them share pretty much the same sensor. And the Canon C50 also comes with this top handle that makes it a lot more ergonomic and comfortable for handheld shooting. I was really impressed because this top handle comes with full-size XLR inputs for a microphone. And so I've been able to actually take advantage of this Rode NTG1 that I've had pretty much sitting on my shelf for a very long time because I used it on a boomstick, but I didn't really like using the boom, especially as a solo operator. And so having that audio quality directly on camera has been phenomenal. And that's all just on operating and the ergonomics of the camera. Let's talk image quality. So this thing can shoot all of its 4K video oversampled from its full 7K sensor, I believe up until 120. I could not find any information on Canon's website or the manual that talks about whether or not the 4K 120 is oversampled, but I know up to 4K 60 definitely is. And so looking at that footage from 4K 24 to 4K 60, you can see how incredibly detailed and sharp the image is. I don't find it too sharp, and you can customize the level of sharpness in camera to your liking. I was also really excited for one, the raw video shooting and the open gate recording. This camera can shoot 12-bit 7K raw video all internally to the CF Express card. And looking at the quality of the 7K video is really impressive, especially when I compare it to the Canon R5 Mark II, which has an 8K raw video setting. You are losing a little bit of resolution, but honestly, when you compare them side by side, you can hardly notice the difference. I absolutely love the colors in the 12-bit raw video. It is absolutely stunning, great saturation, decent contrast. It's definitely flatter, but you can always punch that up in post very quickly. I filmed a bunch of home videos in the raw setting because I like having that extra quality for my own personal use. And as you can see in these examples, it looks really nice. And this is without really any crazy color grading going on. I just applied the Rec 709 LUT and an Adagio LUT from Gambit.io. And so on the image quality front, I have been really impressed with this camera, and I'm excited to really test its limits over the next few months. The last thing I want to touch on is its photo capabilities, which, to be fair, are a bit limiting. And the reason I say that is because this camera does not actually have a mechanical shutter. So all the photos have to be taken with the electronic shutter. This isn't a huge deal breaker, especially for someone who does video first, but for more hybrid shooters who do probably equal amounts or much more photo than they do video, you'll probably want to go the Canon R6 Mark III route. My hang up with the electronic shutter is one, you tend to get a lot more banding from lights. You can obviously work around that using the high frequency shutter mode in the camera that allows you to fine tune the shutter to match the frequency of those lights. But I remember when I used the mechanical shutter, say on my R5 II, I rarely, if ever, ran into that issue in my photos. However, in the electronic shutter mode, you do get high rapid photo bursts. I believe on this camera, it's the same as the R6 Mark III, which is 40 frames per second. And unlike the R6 Mark II, when you go into electronic shutter mode, you still get 14-bit color. On the older Canon cameras, you sometimes would actually lose a little bit of color bit depth when you switch to the electronic shutter mode. But despite all this, the photos still look pretty good. I really don't have any complaints. It is a decent photo camera, but when you compare it to something like the Canon R5C, that one is a much more capable and high quality photo camera, while simultaneously still being an amazing video camera. But my biggest qualm with the R5C is that it still uses C-Log 3, and I'm someone who's really just ready to embrace C-Log 2 and its better dynamic range. Switching back to the video modes, I really appreciate the fact that this camera has the cinema operating system in video. There's a few reasons why I like this, one of them being the fact that you can use many of the assist tools like peaking, zebras, and false color while still having live view enabled. On my Canon R5 II, if you have live view enabled, you cannot use false color at all. You have to actually disable the live view and then you can toggle on the false color. And then the other problem I had with the R5 II and other Canon cameras is that if you wanted focus peaking on, you couldn't have zebras on. If you wanted false color on, you couldn't have zebras on. And so I had to really hotkey all of these different toggles onto different parts of the camera, and I was constantly switching them on and off just so I can monitor and adjust the image as needed. But on the Canon C50, you can literally have all those things on. You can have peaking on, zebras, and false color, and the live view display on without any interruptions. And so it just makes shooting a lot more pleasurable, a lot easier. I'm not having to constantly check which toggle is on and off just so I can monitor the video much more. And so that has been a huge bonus to the quality of life for me as a cinema operator. And the last thing I want to touch on is the fact that this camera does not have IBIS. And I remember being a little bit concerned about that when I had the R5C for rental. I did find that without the IBIS, handheld shooting did look a lot shakier than I'm used to. But having used the Canon C50 handheld these last few weeks, I can confidently say that I'm not bothered by the fact that it does not have IBIS. If you have any lenses with image stabilization, they pair up really well with the camera, and in fact are more than enough to really get out some of those jitters or shakes in your footage. So on my Canon C50, I pretty much had the 24-105 f4 live on this camera. And with its image stabilization, I was really impressed with how stable the footage got. And sure, it takes a little more proper techniques. You really want to grip the camera properly and use, different parts of your body rather than your arms to do the pannings or movements that you want. But the video footage is really smooth. And so, although I was worried about not having IBIS, I have found that to not be an issue, so long as you have lenses with image stabilization. So unfortunately, like my Canon RF 28-70 f2, because it has no lens image stabilization, it would definitely look a lot shakier on that camera. Now, I can talk about this camera all day, but I want to do a more detailed review and guide for it as I get more experience with it. So this was just my first impressions. I want to share with you some footage, some photos, and a little bit about my experience using this camera. If you have any questions about the camera or you want to learn something specific about it, leave those in the comment section below and I'll probably make a video on it in this upcoming year. I intend to really double down on these guides and reviews and camera comparisons as you guys have really been enjoying them. So with that, I just want to say Happy New Year if you're watching this before the new year. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.